So, hello and welcome. I have a really special guest today to share with you guys, and that is Shawn Robertson, who is a hypnotist. I have attended one of his events and it was absolutely fantastic. So, Shawn, welcome.
Oh, thanks, Anna.
And I would like for you to, just talk about why you got into this field. And I know you have a very different background. This is something that we were talking about,
Mhm.
when we met. I was like, how did you come into that? And I would love for you to share that with the people.
Okay, yeah. I'm actually a trained insect scientist and entomologist, which is very weird. People don't know that people can even study that some, but I did
It's
that for
also
a
as
long time.
sciencey as it gets.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's yes, very nerdy. There are weirder things, but I'm not going to talk about them. But yeah, so I studied that and I worked on that for a long time. And there was a lot of observing animal behavior, which I think is interesting. And then it goes to observing human behavior too. But I actually had some of my own issues. I had some anxieties. I felt stuck. I had back pain. And I started looking into hypnosis as a way to help myself. And I was so impressed with it, what it could do, that I thought, I could actually use this to help other people too. So I started studying it and just got more and more into it and finally quit the other job and started doing this. Also moved to Switzerland, another big thing. But yeah.
Wow, like you had like a whole reinvention. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. And just I'm kind of tying it back to the event that I attended, and some of the questions came up, and I was asking a lot of questions because there was this, the difference of the work that I do as well, and it was like this question of, how is hypnosis, whether it's bypassing or not, that it's kind of like, oh, you're just, covering up or like rewiring. Can you talk about some of that, like why it's so effective
Mm-hmm.
and how it works exactly in regards to the like subconscious and the conscious minds?
Okay, yeah. So a lot of our problems are based in a part of us that we not don't really access. So you can think of your mind as being a conscious part and an unconscious part. And the conscious part is that part that you're aware of, the part that you're listening to me with and trying to make sense of what I'm saying. It's the part that kind of looks around and tries to make sense of the world. And it's really kind of a small part of us. You can only hold about 7 things in your conscious mind at one time.
Mhm.
If you think about it, if someone tries to tell you a phone number or you get introduced to 7 people, you're kind of maxed out at what you can bring in. But everything else is unconscious. It's you're not aware of it. So all your memories, all of the things you can do without thinking about them, all those things are unconscious. And that just means you're not currently aware of it. But so any of those things that really bother you, like if you have a panic attack when you see something, that's not
Mhm.
something you're deciding to do. That's something
Mhm.
that's in the unconscious. So with hypnosis, you can kind of relax a little bit and sort of go down into the unconscious and look at some of these things. Or you
Mhm.
could think of it as taking these things up so you can look at them. And
Mhm.
then you could decide whether you want to keep that belief or not.
Mhm.
That's kind of the way I look at it.
Yeah, and as you were saying that, several things came up. First of all, I remember first time hearing about like, oh, 95% of your day in your life is unconscious. I was like, what? Like that's a terrifying number if you think
Mm-hmm.
about it. Like, and you're not aware of the programming that went in, right? It's like from your early childhood, from the caregivers, from the upbringing. You're like, 95% of my life is on default, and I'm not even looking at that default. Like, I'm not even looking at the program that's running in the background. Um, which is just like, look at that stuff, like that's such an invitation. Like, how can you not look at that stuff, right? And the second part is that, as you said that, you have a reaction to something. I remember reading a book and there was this example of, let's say your father suddenly passed away and then you're there at the funeral and somebody taps your shoulder like that. And then, a few years later, you're like in a bar and someone taps your shoulder like that. And like for some reason you have this sadness or this heaviness come over you. And you're like, I don't know why, but it's just there and it seems so real. And this is the example that came up as you were saying that, how we can have these cues, and it's not as simple as, well, just snap out of it or just stop thinking about it. It's kind of like it's hardwired in there because there was
Mm-hmm.
a, actually, I want you to talk about that, how do these programs get put in regards
Mm-hmm.
to, the highly emotional states? Yeah, because you're going to be so much better at explaining that.
Oh no, I mean one way to think of it is that your conscious mind and the unconscious mind, there's a barrier between the two, and they call it the critical faculty. And this barrier only lets things through that already agree with what your unconscious believes.
Mm,
So if someone tells you you're beautiful and you don't believe that on the inside, you just think, why are they lying to me? Or what are they
mm,
trying to get out of me? But if you believe it, then it's like, yeah, I'm beautiful. And it's even stronger. And so how do those things get in there? So when you're little, you don't have any thing to compare new things to. So there's
mm.
no critical faculty. Anything that someone says, you just accept it as true because you don't have any basis to not believe it.
Yeah.
And once those things get in there, then it's hard to change them because new information comes that doesn't agree with that, and you tend to reject that. I mean, if you get overwhelming evidence for years, you can reject it. You can change things. It's not like permanent, but there's a tendency not to change it.
Mm-hmm.
And another way things get in there is if you have a real emotional experience that sort of erases the critical faculty and it just goes right in. If you're, get attacked by a dog or something and just so frightening, it's just that just goes into you deep. And then from
Yeah.
then on, you smell a dog, you start to freak out, without, like the funeral thing you said, it's in there because that was a deep emotional moment
Yeah.
at the funeral.
Yeah.
And now it's there. And then anything that reminds you of that just puts you right back there.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was one of the questions that I asked you about at the workshop, that it works the same. That's what I want to emphasize for the people watching and listening, that is the same with the positive emotions. Like you can
Mm-hmm.
get yourself into a state of this like high frequency state, really energized, really happy, and like that can also help you fix that programming.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of us like, oh, okay, so do I have to have a trauma for things to go deep? It's like not
Right.
necessarily. And I feel like that's one of the kind of the disadvantages that we're not really taught, that, when something bad happens in your life, you want to make sure everybody knows it. And you're kind of like going down that negativity spiral. But it's also like when you're happy and you're excited, like keep milking that. Tell everybody
Mm-hmm.
about that. Like create a high emotional state. And that you have the opportunity to impact your subconscious from that state. Yeah.
That's absolutely true. And you can make those things more powerful. So if you think about a great thing that happened in your life, you can just picture it and make it more colorful, make it bigger, make it closer,
Yeah.
make it 3D, and the negative things in your life, make it grainy, make it further away, make it into like a little picture with a label on it,
Mm.
don't look at this anymore, and just stick it somewhere.
Mhm.
And you
Yeah.
can just that exercise in your mind, you can really vivify that thing. And you really want to vivify those great things.
Yeah.
And what they call setting an anchor. When you experience something great, you can do something like pinch yourself a certain way, or tap yourself on the shoulder, whatever. So then
Mm-hmm.
later, when you want to feel that way again, you can do that. You can do
Mm-hmm.
that thing, or you can breathe a certain way and feel good again, and use that power to get
Yeah,
through
I
the
feel
bad
like
things.
a great hack has been I've actually been doing that on vacations, like when be some high frequency states. And there was one song that I would like choose and play on repeat. And
Mm-hmm.
then whenever I'm in my regular environment, that exact song would activate those feelings and emotions and like those experiences that I've experienced, like those, high state
Mm-hmm.
experiences from the vacation. So that's also a great hack because I feel like music works so quickly, like it really gets you in that. Yeah.
I think
Um,
that's incredible. I think in music is you should do Anna's playlist of songs you need to listen to get yourself into the mood. I think music can really change your state instantly, especially if it reminds you of something. I think it's great.
Yeah. Yeah, especially and that's another thing that's subconscious because I think I've shared it on here. There's like um a high frequency dance playlist that I have, but like all songs are like really positive and they're above like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, I got a new lease on life or something like that. And just like they're all high frequency music because that's another thing. It's like it comes into your subconscious
Mm-hmm.
without you realizing. So it's like, songs about like the broken heart or something's miserable or
Mm-hmm.
nothing's working out for me or just like God, like that's impacting your subconscious without, even with us even being aware.
That's
Yeah.
that's absolutely true. And you can find yourself if you're singing some song, like some song just comes to you, you're singing it. Think about why did I sing that song? And sometimes it's the words. Some songs are bringing you down, and some
Hmm.
bring you up. And so when you get a little bit more in tune with yourself, which is something I think you promote really well to know yourself, you can realize, oh, I'm feeling this way. It's this thought, this song, this thing, this way I'm sitting, and you can change all those things. Sing a
Mm.
different song, change the way you're sitting, breathe
Yeah.
differently.
I love what you just said. First of all, like just the physiology, like changes, like, this is how a
Mhm.
depressed person is, how, someone who feels empowered, absolutely. And when you were talking about that change, that's such a question that comes up often. It's kind of like, where do we come in with our authentic expression? It's like, yeah, but right now
Mhm.
I'm just upset. Or like I'm pissed off, so I want to listen to a sad love song or whatever. Broke up with my boyfriend and this is what I want to feel. Versus yeah, okay, but how do we shift it? Like, or not how do we shift it, but like, let's shift it. And
Right.
where's the balance between that? What is your take on that? Where it's like, okay, I just need like let it out and feel the roar,
Mhm.
or change the song, change the body posture. Yeah.
Well, I think you should definitely feel those things. If something terrible happens to you, it makes sense to feel it. You don't
Mm,
want to just shut it off and not act like nothing happened. But if it starts to happen too much, you can. Here's what I do. I just say, okay, you have 10 minutes. I'm going to say, I've set a timer. You have 10 minutes to feel sorry for yourself. Just lay on the couch and just curl up into a ball and just feel as bad as you want to feel. Just really rain it on, a pity party, whatever. And then when that timer goes off, like, okay, I'm done. And then I'm going to
yeah.
move on. And then you just like, shake it off and do whatever you want to do to be more positive. And just to know that it is a decision. You're not forced to feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's, it feels like it, but
Mm.
it's not really. You can change it, especially giving yourself a time limit helps to indulge yourself a little bit.
I
I
love
find.
that. And yeah, and the language that I use here, and that's something that you commented in the video, that's like the masculine and the feminine energies. And
Mhm.
this is really like creating that masculine container of like, okay, you can be all that you are right now. Like, let's go, let's have a tantrum. And for
Mhm.
that to be in a safe container of like, no, we're not falling into this tantrum, because that's another thing people are afraid of. That it's like, oh, if I start crying, I'll never stop. Or if I
Mhm.
experience these feelings, like, this is it, I'm gonna open the Pandora box. Like, no, because it's emptying it out. And if you don't go to the depths of it, it's still going to be there. Like the body remembers, it's like
Mhm.
it's all stored. It doesn't go anywhere. So I love what you mentioned of just like create that time container, where it's like you can just be all of you and really like I even like to emphasize those like roars. It's like sometimes with clients, especially those that don't feel comfortable feeling their emotions, I'm like, be as dramatic as you can
Mhm.
possibly be. Like be like 20 times more angry than you are right now, or like 20 times more sad. Like really
Mhm.
play it out, because that's something that we're not, we haven't been allowed to do. I feel like as
Mhm.
we grew up, from like, you're allowed to do that as a baby or like as a little toddler, but then
Right.
it's like, no, you can't do that anymore.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really positive. To some people just shut themselves off from their feelings, and that's where you start getting chronic pain. You start getting all kinds of. It's going to
Yeah.
leak out somewhere, and so yeah, I think it's great to feel those things and amp it up. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the body,
Mhm.
in regards to how the body stores emotion? Because I love what you addressed there during the workshop. If you can expand on that, like what happens to those emotions that, or those programs that, don't feel comfortable, don't feel safe, or that weren't processed properly?
Mhm. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to think about it, but if there's anything that's unresolved, there's like a part of you that wants to direct attention to it. And if you just refuse to look at it, then the body might start like, well, I'm just going to turn up the pain a little bit. I'm going to make you hurt or make you sad or something just to get you to look at it. And that's a lot of our problems. I think we just don't want to go there. And sometimes when you go there, it's just not as painful as you think, or it's not going to be painful that long. But you can definitely, with chronic pain, sometimes you can just concentrate on the pain, just kind of go into a trance and just really focus in on it. And sometimes it'll suddenly remind you of something that you just haven't dealt with. And sometimes that can just make it go away.
Hmm. Well, as you were speaking, my question was, yeah, like what would you recommend to someone like that?
Uh,
And you kind of touched on that. Yeah, yeah, go ahead if anything came up.
I mean, you could think of the pain as a friend in a way. It's trying to
Mm,
do something for you. It wants to do something good
yeah.
for you, and it's not doing it in the right way. But you can use it as a clue. What is this telling me? What is it trying to tell me? And it's kind of just sit with that and be genuinely open to the answer. That's the first
Hmm.
step. I mean, these
Yeah.
aren't, you can't always do these things on your own, but a lot of times you
Yeah.
can.
Hmm. Yeah, I remember I was working with a person, and with like after 2 months, like, why, like, you came into this work, why'd you come into this work? And she goes, Well, because when I told you I had cancer, you said something that no one has ever said to me to say, "Do you love your cancer?" And how weird is that? Well, like, what a weird thing that is to say. And I'm like, but that was genuine. I'm like,
Mhm.
do you love your cancer? Do you see it as an enemy? I feel like that was so powerful what you just said. It's like, can we just remember that it's there for you? Like it's a part of you
Mhm.
trying to help you. And can we just open up to first at least like neutrality? And then next, like, can you actually love it and open up enough to it, to the message of it?
Mhm.
I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's obvious, it's easy to hate your pain, but you can be thankful for what it's trying to do. It's good
Yeah.
intention.
Yeah.
And even this is crazy, but you can just talk to your pain and just say, look, I understand you're trying to send me a message.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not getting it. I don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or if you do know what it is, say thank you.
Yeah.
And thanks for telling me, but you can go now. I appreciate it. Appreciate the thought. And I'm thankful and I'm going to change, but can you just go away now? The pain and the pain
Mm-hmm.
can just be gone sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
burned my hand one time really bad, and I did that. I said, "Oh, thank you. That was dumb. Touching that piece of burning wood. That was stupid. My mistake. Thank you for warning me. And
Mm.
I know that now. And you can go." And it just pain is gone.
Mm. I love that. Like, because that's a lot of the work I do. It's like personifying, a
Mm-hmm.
physical symptom and a feeling like where's the body or like what is the color, shape, form of it, and then
Mm-hmm.
working in this way. Yeah, absolutely love it. Um, Last question because I want to keep the time for the practice as well.
Okay.
Um, you spoke about the different aspects of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Can you go into that? And I love the metaphor that you used of the house. And can you expand with that with the unconscious mind?
Sure. It's like, we feel like we're just one person, but we have all these different little parts of us that do different, take on different roles. And you're a different person when you're talking to your mom than when you're talking to your child, or when you're talking to a police officer or whatever. You really shift into these different roles. And one way to think of it is you have your body or yourself as a giant house, and you kind of can go to all these different rooms in the house. And one room might be very pleasant, and one room might be scary. Like you said, one room might be haunted. One room might have wild animals in it. And you're kind of walking through these rooms. And when you're aware of that, you can sort of choose to walk into a different room sometimes. Like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I can walk out of this room and walk into another one. Or
Mm-hmm.
you could walk into the room where the problem is and try to deal with the problem,
Mm-hmm.
feed the dogs or put the fire out or whatever is going on there. This
Mm-hmm.
is very metaphorical, but
Yeah.
it's because it's the one problem with standard psychotherapy. It's like you're sitting up in your office talking about what's happening in this other room. You can talk about it all day, but unless you go to the room, you can't, deal with the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah. And as you're saying that, what I saw is like this, a lot of people are in this place of we start off with like the whole house being amazing and we love
Mm-hmm.
it. And then as we grow up, it's like less of the house becomes safe.
Mm-hmm.
And we get to this point of just like, okay, now it's, from 20 rooms, it's 19 and then 18 and then 17. And we kind of get like small.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like we're afraid to go into the rest of the house. And because so many things like just kind of pile on and become unconscious, or oh, I don't want to feel these feelings. And it's like, um, yeah, there comes a point where it's like, okay, I feel really closed off in my own house, which is like,
Mm-hmm.
the body and the mental body and the physical body, the spiritual body.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great metaphor. And as if in a real house, doing that is a way to avoid problems. But if you don't fix the stuff in the house, it's just going to get worse. You have to
Yeah.
go. You're getting smaller and smaller, but your house is falling apart basically
Yeah.
unless you go deal with it. You have to deal with uncomfortable things. I think that's one of the main things. I'm sure you deal with this in your therapy. You have to
Yeah.
face
My
uncomfortable
question
things.
would be for you. It's like if someone's like, yeah, but I don't want to. It's like,
Well,
well, I want to wait to see how long, like how bad it can get if I avoid the majority of my house at this point.
yeah.
Um, what would you say to someone like that?
Well, usually if someone was really adamant about it, I'd say, well, come back to me when it gets that bad,
I guess that bad. Yeah.
Um, or just think about it.
Mhm.
Is the pain of going into this disturbing room worth the long-term pain that you're going to suffer from not being able to do anything, from being closed off?
Yeah, that's the question I really love going into. It's like, what is it costing you?
Hmm.
Because, even when we think of, and I totally had that, working with a mentor, doing some kind of practice, it's like, oh, that costs a lot of money. It's like, what, or, time, like maybe it's not the financial investment, maybe it's the time investment, but it's like, what is it costing you to not do that? Like, what is the price of being in the same place a year from now?
Hmm.
Or the price of, like we need, let's say, vacations or experiences just so we don't feel numb, just we feel better temporarily about ourselves. So we avoid, whatever's going on in the body, whatever's going on in the subconscious. Like I said, it's like, you can have that tap on the shoulder. And you're like, oh, I'm feeling down. Let me book a vacation so I can like, try to snap out of it. And then you don't, or like it temporarily kind of resolves it, but then you still feel that because that hasn't been resolved because that's like, the button was pushed that was there for a
Yeah,
long time.
it could be
Yeah,
expensive over time, more expensive than just
exactly.
either emotionally or financially than just
Yeah.
dealing with it.
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely love it. Okay. I would love for you to guide us through a powerful experience.
Okay.
And for you to first just describe, what the
Mhm.
experience is for, just like because when I heard you and like how you guide people through the meditation practice as well, like it was so phenomenal. So I would love for you to share some of this in a few minutes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sure. If you want to get a little bit more out of it, you don't have to do this, but if you have something that's been weighing on you, bothering you, then you could use this now. And as we go through this little exercise, you can maybe let some of those things go. Another thing, if you really want to experience something even more, a great thing, you can also think of that. Either way, you can use this. Usually it's done for negative things, but you can be done for positive things too. So if you have something that's been bothering you, maybe even the chronic pain, just be aware of that now, and we'll work on it as we do this little, just kind of mini
Perfect.
hypnosis, if you want to, if you will. I don't know.
Perfect. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So let's just become aware of our breathing for the next minute or two. And, I don't want you to change your breathing, just be aware of it. I know it's a little bit like saying, walk normally, uh, but just,
Pink elephant. Don't think of a
yeah,
pink
just,
elephant.
just, just see what your breathing is doing. Just let it just,
Mhm.
and we're going to start to turn our attention toward it, toward the subtle thing. It's one of the most subtle things in our experience, but fortunately, it's something you can be aware of anytime. So let's just take a deep breath in right now. And as you exhale, you can allow your eyes to close if they're not already closed. And just let your breath take care of itself. And allow your attention to go there. And it's quite natural for the attention to move as other things call out for your attention. I know personally, whenever I try to meditate by concentrating on my breath, after one or two breath cycles, I'm off daydreaming about something else entirely. So you can think of your attention as something that moves toward things. That's actually the Latin root of the word, to reach toward, kind of like a tendril of a fern or a pea plant, kind of unfurling and returning back to its source. So, with your eyes closed, your attention can go anywhere, to your visual field. You could turn your attention to the soles of your feet, to another inner feeling. I wonder if you're aware of your inner voice, even as you listen to my voice. It's quite effortless for your attention to reach toward these things and then return to itself. because we can become aware of being aware. And now, once again, allow your attention to reach toward your breathing so you can watch it again. And I want you to notice how you can naturally notice how you're aware of your breathing. And if you were to answer that question now, some people would move to the inhalation, and others would be more mindful of exhalation. But you can notice it in movement, perhaps with the ribs expanding, belly rising. And if you were really to tune into it now, I wonder if you could notice a tiny movement in the shoulders. Can you be aware of the temperature in your nostrils as you inhale? And is it different when you exhale? As long as I keep pointing your attention there in different ways, you can be aware of your breathing. And still, it's the most natural thing in the world to lose track. But that's okay, because you can always come back to it. And it's not that you need to cultivate a single point focus. Right now, we're just paying attention to this breath. You can also show some gratitude for this breath. So what I'd like you to do now is to place one hand on your chest, right near the center of your heart. And place your other hand on top of that. It's kind of a universal gesture of gratitude. I know when my son was little, he fell down from a zip line in our yard. He fell flat on his back and he didn't move. And that movement seemed to drag on forever. I thought he was paralyzed. And when he groaned and sat up, my hands went right to that position, that universal gratitude. And I want you to feel your breath taking care of you, whether you attend to it or not. It's breathing you every minute you've spent on this planet. And what would it mean for you to connect with your breath? And you can let your hands drift down now, but as they drift down, just allow yourself to drift up out of your body. Just drift up right through the ceiling, higher and higher, leaving your body down below you. And you can go higher and higher and get a sense of that height in the air. Maybe you can get a sense of the landscape below you. You can drift even higher. Maybe you could go so high that you can see the entire planet Earth beneath you. This blue ball just floating there so far below you. And get a sense of a giant target way down below you, like an archery target. You can just see the colored bands. And right in the center of this target, in the bullseye, just put all of that, whatever you were dealing with, that pain or that emotion that you don't want, and put it right in the center. Or if it's a good feeling, put that in there too. Whatever it is that you want to deal with right now. And let it flow from you right to that place. And in a moment, I'm going to make a sound like shoo, and you're going to be fired like a golden arrow right through the center of that bullseye into a space of complete bliss. So get ready and be brave, because for a split second, you may experience this pain even more. But then it'll be beyond you. It'll be gone forever. So get ready now. 3, 2, 1. And you're through the target on the other side, floating in a place of complete bliss. Nothing bothers you. Nothing disturbs you. You can just feel that bliss now and get a sense of the people that love you. Feel that love. Feel where you feel it. See their faces, see them laughing. Hear their voices. And feel that love right now and that complete bliss. And with that gratitude to your own breath. And I'd like you to float down now beside your body and just get a sense of your body there in front of you, and the clothes you were wearing and the expression on your face. And let your unconscious now get rid of every bit of that useless pain or emotion that was bothering you. Or if it was a good thing, to make it amped up even more. Let your unconscious do this job thoroughly. And when every last bit is gone of that useless pain, or that wonderful emotion is jazzed up to where you want it to be, just float inside your body now. And let your unconscious open your eyes when you're ready. Getting
I said that was absolutely fantastic. Thank you.
okay.
Just coming back
uh,
to this. Yeah.
great.
Beautiful. Yeah. Wiggling your fingers,
Mhm.
toes. Hmm.
That's right. Kind of shake it
Yeah.
off and see how you feel now. You can
Yeah.
just kind of move around and just kind of like you did, the
Mm-hmm.
cracking, the stretching. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. Mm.
Okay. Can you tell more about where people can find you and how people can work with you? And I'm gonna link the information below, but just yeah, the
Okay.
format in which you work in.
Yeah, sure. I have a website, ShawnRobertsonHypnosis.com, very original. And you can, it's Shawn with SHAWN, not like Shaun the Sheep, not like Sean Connery, like some another one.
Get it right,
And
people. Get it right.
I usually tell people Shaun the Sheep, and if they have kids, they know what that is. Um, and I'm on Facebook and on LinkedIn as well. And I work just like this online, but I also, if you happen to be in Lucerne, Switzerland, you can go to the Lilly Center and work with me in person. But I find working online is just as good. And sometimes you feel better in your own home
Mm.
where you're experiencing the problem instead of going to some weird places. But either way. And I usually do 4 sessions because it takes a while to build that, confidence in each other and to do the work properly. Some things like phobia you can actually get rid of in 1 session, strangely.
Mm.
But yeah, that's the way I work. And met some
Amazing.
wonderful people that way.
Awesome. Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing this with us. And yeah, again, guys, if you want to connect with Shawn, the information's below. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, and I love your show. It's really an honor to be
Thank
here.
you. Thank you.